everybody. People will be coming in, during the whole thing. I'm David Thompson. I'm one of the co-artistic hooligans that put this together. My co-hooligan, Miss Sue Kuntz, she has a short thing to say. If you have any problems, that yellow tablecloth over there on our stage right, which is your left, that's Nerve Central. Somebody will be there to help you out. I don't think of anything else. Oh, we got stuff going on. Just look at your schedule, look at what's going on, and I'm going to put a plug in. I'm introducing a new concert this afternoon, the long form, over at the Women's Center. All right, come on, Sue.
Hey, we are so excited. I want you to know we've been planning all year long for each and every one of you to come here, so we are elated. We want you to spread the word. We do have an addendum in here. So there, of course, things happen. COVID happens, illnesses happen. So we have some folks that have switched places when it comes to the concert. We have a workshop room over here and a workshop room upstairs by the registration. And then we have the library, which is very close. And next to the library is a women's center. And we are using all three places for concerts and workshops all weekend long. Anybody wearing one of these badges, it says we're a board member, please, if we don't come up to you to say hi, you come up to us. We would love to get you involved in any and every way we can. And welcome to all the new folks here. We hope we can entice you to come back every year and get involved in so many different ways. And with that said, we're going to get our MC, Jay McLaughlin, up to the stage. How about a big hand for Jay?
That was so much fun to get introduced by these two neat people. Welcome to the Texas Storytelling Festival. We are so glad that you are all here and in this room with us. I first want to know how many of you are here for the very first time at the Texas Storytelling Festival. Thank you. Glad to have you. And I know you're going to enjoy it because we have so many wonderful things going on. I want to make sure that you know where the restrooms are. And they're back behind that thing, behind the silent auction. So you can find them there. I want you to know that we usually turn off all of our cell phones so we don't have any different music that interrupts the storyteller, okay? So we'd love to have you join us in silencing your phone. I think that was basically it. And I am now going to introduce a person from Denton, and this might be her first storytelling festival too. This is Mayor Pro Tem, Susie Rumor. Susie, come on up.
Hi, I'm Susie Rumor, and I'm the Mayor Pro Tem of the City of Denton. I've been able to talk to a few of y'all. I'm also a university librarian, so I'm a little extra excited to welcome you to Denton and to the 41st Texas Storytelling Festival. When I was a kid, I struggled to get into longer form novels because there were so many characters. It took me a while to get acquainted with the characters, and there were so many people to keep track of. But when I went to the public library with my family, I was always drawn to folk tales and other similar short stories. I really liked the way that they explained natural phenomena, moral lessons, and history. So I always found myself checking those books out. Like, what's the origins of certain kinds of flowers? What's the origins of corn? How did the moon get up in the sky? I loved those kinds of stories. What wins the race? Slow and steady or really fast, right? I loved those short stories and learning those lessons. Stories bring us together. They tell us who we are, who we've been, and who we want to be. They connect us, they entertain us, and they inspire. And I just want to say thanks to all of you for keeping the tradition of storytelling alive through this festival and through all of the other activities you do outside of this festival. I want to thank the festival directors, the festival organizers, sponsors, the storytellers who have traveled here from all over, and then to each and every one of you for attending and supporting this event. I hope that you enjoy your time at the festival and in Denton. I hope you're able to make some new connections, maybe strengthen some old ones. I hope that you learn something and that you come away feeling inspired and renewed. And with that, I will hand it back over so y'all can get started. Thank y'all.
We're going to see how alert you are, and we're going to move around a little bit and keep you on your toes. I want to introduce to you Elizabeth Ellis. Elizabeth Ellis came to the very first festival in 1985. That was 41 years ago, okay? And she has been coming to these festivals ever since. Several of the reasons why she has been doing that is because she comes to get inspiration. She comes and is an inspiration to all who attend. She comes to get her cup filled that will last her for a year. So Susie has said all the good things about stories and storytelling. So would you please welcome Elizabeth Ellis.
Well, you may be wondering why I called you here today. I intended to tell one story, and I'm going to tell a quite different one than the one I intended. You don't mind, do you? The one I was going to tell is an audience participation story, and there's not much audience to participate. So, how about a Denton story? Okay. The United States has had its fair share of outlaws. Some of them have been quite popular people. Sam Bass is a name that used to be on everybody's lips all over North Texas and Indian Territory as well. You might not have heard that name much. You may think of major outlaws as being people like Jesse James, but in the area that's now underwater, Lake Lewisville, was where Sam and his men usually had their hideouts. It took a long time to take Sam Bass into captivity because the common people who lived on farms and ranches here in North Texas loved him. And they hid him and took care of him every chance they got. And maybe the story I'm getting to tell you might explain why common people would feel that way. Are you ready for that? When Sam and the boys rode into the yard, there was nobody around but one woman, and she was chopping wood. Sam took off his hat and he said, "Ma'am, we're hungry. We'll pay you if you'll feed us." The woman stepped back a step and she looked at him. His face looked familiar to her, but she couldn't at first tell where she'd seen it before. "We're hungry, ma'am. Would you feed us?" She said, "There's places in town. Why don't you go into Denton and eat?" Sam said, "It's not exactly safe in town for some of us." And that's when the woman remembered where she'd seen the face before. It was on wanted posters all over the area. That was Sam Bass, and that meant that the men with him had to be his gang of outlaws. But there was something about that face. That big grin. He had taken his hat off. He had called her ma'am. She said, "A hungry man's a hungry man. Come in the house and eat." And she started walking toward the door. Then she turned back and she said, "Don't come to my table without cleaning up, you hear me?" So Sam and the boys turned back to the pump. They washed their hands and faces and necks, ears. Some even stuck their heads under the pump. When they came to our table, they were as clean as they could be on such short notice. By the time they entered the house, they could smell coffee on the boil, and that's a hopeful smell, isn't it? If you smell the coffee, you know the food can't be far behind. When she came out of the kitchen, putting off all kinds of jellies and pickles and such stuff, Sam said, "Where's your husband?" "Dead." Just a one-word answer, and she disappeared into the kitchen again. When she came back later carrying the first platter of biscuits, he said, "You got children?" She said, "3. He said, "I don't see 'em around anywhere." She said, "There's a play tonight at the schoolhouse, and I sent 'em over there to help decorate." She disappeared into the kitchen again. For a while, you didn't hear anything except the sound of people eating that are really hungry. Not that that's a quiet sound. It's its own kind of language. After a while, when the men began to get full, she came back with more coffee, poured it around, and the men sat there enjoying the silence and the feeling of a full stomach after a long emptiness. Sam said, "You know, she could use some wood being chopped." And so the boys, taking the hint, even though it wasn't a subtle one, headed outside and began to cut some wood for the woman. Sam stepped into the doorway of the kitchen, aiming to tell her how much he was grateful for the food and the hospitality. And he saw her leaning against the wall. She was crying so hard her shoulders were shaking. He said, "What on earth is wrong?" And she whipped around on him like a snake. She said, "There's people in this world with real trouble, not people who go around making trouble like you do." Sam wasn't used to being talked to like that. He said, "No, ma'am, what's wrong?" She said, "Well, since my husband died, I've had no way to pay on this place here. The man's coming from the bank in Dallas today to put us off our land. That's why I sent the kids to the schoolhouse. There's some things kids shouldn't have to see." Sam said he believed that's right. He said, "The man from the bank, when will he come?" She said, "This afternoon." "Does he ride a horse?" "No," she said, "he always comes in a real fancy buggy pulled by a bay mare with a white blaze on its face. He's been here twice before threatening to put us out, but today's the actual day." Sam went out to his horse and he started digging around in his saddlebags. When he came back, in his hand he had a bright red bandana and he threw it in the middle of the kitchen table. When it hit the wood, it made a heavy clinking sound. Sam said, "I said I'd pay you if you'd feed us." The woman untied the knot in the handkerchief and spread it out. It was full of $20 gold pieces. She made a stack of 5 with trembling fingers. And then she made 4 more stacks, 5 stacks, just like that. $600. It was a fortune, but it's what she owed on the property, on the ranch. She said, "I can't take this kind of money from you." Sam said, "Why not? You only have to do one thing to earn it." She knitted up her brow and said, "And what's that?" He said, "A man who's low enough to put a woman and her children out on the road when he knows they've got no place to go is low enough to come back next week and say he didn't get any money. Don't let him leave here without signing his name to a piece of paper that says you don't owe another dime. That's what you have to do to get this money." "All right," she said, "I can do that." He said, "Don't forget." He signs a piece of paper that says your debt is paid in full. He went outside, got the boys back on their horses, and they started south. The woman stood on the edge of the porch and she waved her apron to them till they were clean out of sight, her face running wet with tears. Now, the Elm Fork of the Trinity River has a ford in it. It's a low place where you can ride your horse right through the water or pull a wagon through the water because the river is wide there and narrow rather than narrow and deep. Back in those days, there was a big grove of live oak trees there, and it was a nice place to spend a hot afternoon and watch the traffic go by, or what passed for traffic back in those days. In the early afternoon, they saw a fine-looking buggy come down and go through the ford and go out on the north side of the bank. It was pulled by a bay mare with a white blaze on her face. They laid back underneath the trees. One man kept lookout. About 2 hours passed, and they saw that same buggy coming south, headed back toward Dallas. When it headed into the ford and was sitting in the middle of the water, where the horse would have a hard time getting its feet, Sam stepped out of the bushes, and all the men with him stepped out behind him. Sam called out to the man in that fine-looking buggy, "Throw down your money, throw it on the bank," and said, "What makes you think I've got money?" Sam said, "I better see some money or you won't be seeing Dallas." And so that man in that fine black broadcloth suit started digging around, and finally he pulled out a red bandana. And he threw it up on the bank, and when it hit the ground at Sam's feet, it made a heavy clinking sound. And that man whipped up that bay mare and headed for Dallas as fast as he could scoot. And Sam and the boys, they lit out for Denton.
She has another story to tell over at the Women's Building for the Texas Folklore Society. So we've made arrangements to get her there. Thank you again, Elizabeth. Let's give her one more hand. Our next teller is Daniel Jones. And I got to tell you, he's been coming for a few years to help set up for the festival. And I just added together, it took us about 15 hours, if I take 5 hours times 3, to set up the store. Putting up the signs takes time. Setting up the silent auction takes time. So believe you me, I am grateful to Daniel and everybody who comes to help set up. That's for sure. But I wanted to tell you what he says about himself. Instead of a career, Dan's careened through a diversity of wage work to give equal time to artful ambitions, which include designing and building his house in the woods, a decade as an artist in education, writer and performer of poems, songs, plays, short stories, bumper stickers, gardener, theater director, set designer. And the thing that he has continually done is befriending 3 goblin dogs. The 4 of them live out in his Poets Park, close to Linden, Texas. You can go there for a tour if you'd like to. and he takes time to walk you through his forest of many trees and family memories. And the house is amazing. Would you please welcome Daniel Jones to the mic?
Yeah, I'm all right. Well, first of all, I just have to admit to y'all that I'm an addict. Yeah, about 1986 or so, I got some wage work in Jefferson, Texas, to support my addiction to acting. Thank you. Yes, thank you. Had you going there, didn't I? Yeah, acting. If you are a theatrical ham, as I am, then you know that there is no money in the craft of acting unless you are singularly focused on showbiz. Well, I was not as a young man. I liked the show, but I didn't like the biz. I mean, there were so many poems, prayers, and promises, things that I believed in, how good it is to love someone, how right it is to care. So in 1974, as soon as I got my Bachelor of Fine Arts degree in acting, I took off and got me a job in the oil field. Yeah. I needed some petrodollars because I wanted to go back to the land. And first, I went out west to go to John Denver's Rocky Mountain High. Yeah. When I got back from wandering the wilderness, and all that open space and the fresh air and the light, my first job in Austin was digging the sewer tunnel. That day, I had to have a day job, so I could support my habit of prancing across the proverbial 3 boards and 2 barrels. It was not a day job after all. After 3 days there, I learned that I was on a rotating shift. I had to quit because it interfered with rehearsals for my dance troupe. Mm-hmm. And, the subsequent day slavery jobs that I got, well, they never kept pace with the rapidly increasing price of land around the Texas Hill Country. But I found out about Jefferson, Texas, and the area around had really cheap land. Found out about it through an ad in Mother Earth News. That was a 70s rag that was a Back to the Landers magazine. Yeah, the ad said, a new age theater community. Wright Lee, Jefferson, Texas, 75657. 75657. Oh, that sounded to me like a palindromatic zip code. So I wrote back. And you may know about Jefferson, some of you. It's a real touristy town. Why, they even advertise across the border in Shreveport TV stations. Oh, very historic place. In the middle 1800s, they had this monstrous economy. There was so much money that there were 3 murders a day. Oh, I'm sorry. It was just 1 murder a day in Bateman Alley. I don't know what happened outside Bateman Alley. But also, they were the 2nd largest port in Texas. Way up there in northeast Texas. That was until the Great Raft, which was a log jam, got blown up after the Civil War, and the water levels on the Black Cypress Bayou and Cattle Lake dropped, and the big riverboats couldn't make it up to and fro the Mississippi along the Red River. Well, that was fine for the settled church-going people of the town. They wanted a much quieter existence. They even said to a robber baron, Jake Gould, we don't want your railroad coming through here. Get out. And he scolded him. He said, grass will grow in your streets and bats will roost in your belfries. It was true. For a century, Jefferson's economy was on the wane. until historic tourism became a thing. Yeah. And the organizer of this New Age theater community, Lee, he wanted to cash in on that tourism thing. And I'm tell you, yeah, he thought that he could enhance and expand the theatrical offerings around town. Now, for years, Jefferson produced and mounted, year after year, the Diamond Bessie murder trial. It was based on a local crime, very famous, that that caused the federal law about double jeopardy to go into effect. And the problem with that play, though, was it was only done 2 weekends out of every year, and it was more of a kind of social amateur event. But the play's director, traditional director, Marsha Thomas, oh, she offered on demand, year round, her ego in the guise of a one-woman show called Love is a Wild Cry. Her local critics said the show's name was Love is a Stifled Yawn. Well, Lee thought that we communists would raise vegetables during the day, and during the night we would present our brand of woke theater. That's with an R-E, theater. Now, that was the plan. I visited a bunch with discussions with other folks who were interested about it, and it always ended up being kind of pipe dreams. Somebody would say, hey, I know what we could do. We could raise all the ingredients to make magic brownies, and we could sell them and make a lot of money and go to hot springs and to the bathhouses. I never had enough money to buy in at that time, which was a lucky thing because, the ideas fell apart, and pretty soon the hippie village's 30 acres went back to the bank. Well, I kept in touch with Lee when I went to Austin and started doing my theater habit again, supported by day jobs that this time were better paying and a little less manual labor. That gave me enough time to write poems, plays, and promising stories you could believe in. Well, my bank account grew, as well as my disgust for Austin's loss of innocence. And in 1985, I found with my friend the finances to make the move of my life, which was onto 9 acres about 20 miles north of Jefferson. Seems old dreams don't die. We found some area folks who were likewise stage stompers, and we finagled our way onto a stage, a little postage stamp stage in Jefferson's Haywood house. Yeah. And daily I would commute into town and do manual labor, maintaining landscapes at the increasing number of bed and breakfasts that happened to lay upon the route of the tourist tram. Now, my actor friend Mike, he drove the tourist tram. In reality, it was just an old Cadillac chassis that, they put some school bus bench seats on, and it had open sides, but it didn't have a roof. I think most people took the tram not so much to hear Mike's historical narrative as to get a little bit of shade, to rest their feet, and have moving air going across their face. I mean, searing summer sun on the Black Cypress Bayou sends heat as high as the humidity. Well, whenever Mike got tired of yammering on about how this old house or that old house was rolled to its present location on logs, he would find me, grubbing around under some bushes in somebody's yard, and he would stop the tram, sometimes bumping it against the curb so to wake up some of the sleeping tourists. And he'd call out, "Hey, Dan, how's it going?" And I'd crawl out of the bushes, just leaves and weeds sticking to me as tight as my sweat-soaked t-shirt, and I'd say, "Mike, it is hot. We're talking cottonmouth, burny-eyed, hot. Day like today, I ought to be wearing long sleeves for protection, and long pants, shoes, a hat. Hey, those sunglasses. And I'd nab some off some sleepy head's head, put them on and say, oh, now that's a cool touch. Before anybody could protest, I'd change my tone and slump my shoulders and say, oh, but still, it's hot. Sinus singeing, iced tea binging hot. I saw a man shuffling down the street. He was zigzagging to catch the phone pole shadows. That was this morning when the shadows were long, but it's near noon now, and the shadows are gone, and it's hot. Sizzling, searing, pop a beer, and it's hot. Well, by this time, folks realized that there was an event going on, and they relaxed into it, and I'd continue. Oh, you take a shower thrice an hour, midday napping? That's an invitation to hallucination. You wake up tired, confused, wet. Oh, I might spot somebody who wasn't really into it. I'd bear in on, oh, I could sit by a pool and fry like a fool. Or watch the girls through the water swirls and get really hot. Moaning, groaning, sighing, crying hot. Dogs crawl under porches and dig to cooler dirt. Leaves look steamed, withered, hurt. Sprinklers, they spray straight up to the clouds, which look like bubble columns in boiling water. The air shimmers, waves goodbye, then melts into puddles, which evaporate before your eyes because it's hot! Hot! Folks around here may look like the grinning, friendly sort. That may be true, but I must report we're just gritting our teeth, squinting our eyes, trying to contain our boiling brains. You be hot! At that point, Mike would hand me a big glass of water. I'd take a sip, pour the rest over my head, toss it to him, and disappear into the bushes. And he'd throw that jalopy into gear, saying, you can see me and Dan tonight at the Haywood House Theater. That's with an E-R. And that's, my friend, is how I got these fine sunglasses.
Thank you, Dan. Appreciate your long tail. This is the welcome to the festival concert. Have I welcomed you yet? Oh, good. I didn't know if I had or not, but there's some folks that have come in since the beginning, so let me welcome you all. We're glad to have you here. And I want to also let you know that the city of Denton is one of our sponsors. I want to have you remember some of these sponsors because we want to work with them every year as we have since the beginning. So I want you to say, City of Denton. Can you do that? Okay, let's do it one more time. I think 50-some people can do this a little louder. One more time. That was great. Thank you so much. Because now we can roll on to our next teller. This is a teller who has been to all the festival. Well, she has been to most all the festivals since the second one in 1986. I have seen her at many of them, and I have watched her daughter grow up. And it's an exciting thing to do because we know we keep coming and we keep seeing each other. Now, she says she's been, I'll go back to what I needed to say. She's been telling stories since 1986 with the Houston Storytelling Guild. And she retired librarian from the Houston Public Library and a longtime very active member of TSA. And she has been awarded the John Henry Falk Award. So she deserves a hand just for that. She says, why do I keep coming? I love stories, and I always have. But more than the that I love stories told by our amazing and varied community of storytellers who not only support each other, but delight each other with their own diverse gifts. I look forward to hearing the same story told differently, stories new to me, and learning something new from our tribe of storytellers, our delightful and sometimes delightfully quirky storytellers and story lovers every year. So she returns, and she returns, because storytellers make the world better. Would you please welcome Sally Goodroe?
Good morning, everyone. Well, I'm going to tell you a traditional story, and it's an example of what I was saying in my little intro, which is that it's a story I've heard many versions of, and I have stolen a good part of it with permission from a storyteller named Eddie Lenahan, who is an Irish storyteller. If you ever get a chance, he's quite the sight. He's a wonderful teller. Now, there was once a man named Brian O'Connell, and one night he was coming home from having sold a cow in town, and he had made a little extra money, and so he had gone to the pub. And maybe that was why, or maybe it was because there was no moon in the sky, or maybe it was the mist rising from the grass, but somehow, all at once, he looked around, and though he would have sworn he knew the way home like the back of his hand, he was lost. Well, he thought, I best find a place to spend the night, and in the morning I'll know my way. So he looked around and he saw through the trees a little light, and he made his way towards it. It was a little cottage on a hill, and it had a half door, one of those that opens separately, the top and the bottom, and the top was open. And he could see inside an old man and an old woman sitting by the fire. And as he came right up to the house and began to knock on that bottom door, the old man sprang up and ran to the door and said, "Brian O'Connell, what are you doing out so late?" Well, Brian thought he did not know this man at all, but the man seemed to know him and immediately said, "Please come in." And when Brian said what he was looking for, he said, "Of course you may spend the night." And the woman got up and she made him some tea and brought him some bread and cheese. And after he had eaten, they all sat down by the fire. And the old man pulled out his pipe and put in his tobacco. And he said, "Now, Brian, how about a story or a song for us?" Now, Brian knew that a guest was often asked to tell a story or a song. So he felt bad. He said, "You wouldn't want to hear me sing. You'd rather hear a gate swinging in the wind than hear me sing. And as for a story, well, 'twas my grandfather that was the storyteller." "Well, surely you know one of his," said the old woman. "Ah, just bits and pieces, he said. Well, the old man and the old woman exchanged a glance. They were disgusted. And the old woman, she sat up and she said, "Now, Brian, perhaps you'll go fill us a pail of water for the morning." And she went over and she got the pail, and he was eager to redeem himself. So he took the pail outside and he went to the well. And just as he was pulling the pail off the hook, there was a kind of a strange wind that turned him around in some way. There was a little bit of music in that wind, he said afterwards. But there was the cottage and the door at the top open, so he took the bucket up. When he looked inside, there was no old man and no old woman. It was a wake house. There was a long table with a coffin down the middle, and by the sides of the wall there were 5 men sitting in straight chairs and a young woman. And she ran up to the door. She said, "Oh, Brian O'Connell, you've come in our hour of need." Well, again, he had no idea who she was. But what could he do? He set the water down. He came inside. He sat in the chair. there was a big man in the corner. And the big man, after a while, said, "This is the most boring wake I have ever been at. You two go fetch the fiddler." But the young woman spoke up just then. She said, "Why should we fetch the fiddler when we have the finest fiddler in 2 counties sitting here with us? Why, who in the world but Brian O'Connell?" And he stood up. He said, "Oh, no." He said, "You must have me mistaken for someone else." She said, "Ah, modesty." She went up to the mantelpiece. She pulled the fiddle down and she handed it to him. He said, "Oh, you'll be sorry for this." He tucked it under his chin the way he'd seen other people do, and he set the bow to it. And the music, oh my, the music came pouring out of that fiddle as if he'd been playing since birth. Well, reels and strathspeys, all the men got up and they danced with the young woman and with each other till they were quite exhausted. Well, he handed back the fiddle and he sat down, astonished. After a while, the big man said, "Well, we must have the prayers. Go and fetch the priest." And 2 of the other men got up. He said, "Why in the world should we fetch the priest when we have Father O'Connell sitting right here, the best priest in all the 3 parishes?" And he said, I know you have me mistaken now. I have no Latin. I do go to church on occasion." Now, says she's pushing him up to the head of the table. And she said, "Now just say a few words." So he opened his mouth and the Latin came pouring out of him. Oh, such lovely prayers. He didn't know what he was saying, but it was all so lovely. They were all dabbing their eyes. Oh, such loveliness. Well, once again he sat down, not knowing where he was at all. Well, finally the big man says, "Time to take the coffin to the graveyard." So he knew what to do there. They all stood up, 3 men on one side and 3 on the other, and they hefted the coffin onto their shoulders. But one of the men was very, very tall, and so the coffin was tipped up. And the big man says, "Oh, well, we can't have that. We've got to shorten his legs. Go and get the surgeon." And the young woman says, "Why in the world should we fetch a surgeon when we have the best surgeon in all of Ireland sitting here with us?" Brian was beyond. He couldn't even think about what he was going to do now, but he decided, I must do what she says. So the very tall man sat on one chair and put his foot up on the other. They gave Brian a saw, and he sawed under the knee, took that piece, shortened it, took that piece and stuck it back on. The tall man, who was no longer so tall, a little tipped, stomped his feet. There, now match it with the other foot. Stuck it back on. Then when they picked up the coffin that time, completely level. And so they went down the road with the young women following them till they came to the graveyard. They couldn't get in the gate. They went around 3 times looking for it, and so they had to go over the wall, and then they each took a turn digging the grave. And when it was all dug and the coffin ready to go in, the big man looked around and he said, "Now, who shall be buried tonight?" And the young woman speaks up and says, "Who in the world but Brian?" He didn't stay for the rest. He was gone. He ran so fast, jumped over that wall as if it were nothing. He could hear their pounding feet and their shouts coming after him. He was looking for a place to hide or someone to help him, and he sees a light through the trees. He runs towards the light, and there is the cottage with the half door open, and the old man and the old woman. He tumbled in the door, and the old man jumped up and said, "What's the matter? What's the matter?" He said, "Hide me! Hide me! They're after burying me." "Well, sit down and tell us what happened." So Brian caught his breath. And he said, he told about finding the wake house. He told about playing the fiddle. He told about saying the prayers. He told about cutting off that man's legs. And he told about nearly being buried alive. And all through it, the old man and the old woman were saying, "No! Did it happen just that way? No!" Well, and at the end of it, the old man said, "Now that was a good story." And it wasn't until the next morning that Brian figured out what I think you all have already. He found himself lying in a bed of dry leaves. There was no cottage. There was no old man. There was no old woman. And it was then he realized that he had been a guest of the fairies. And because he had no story to tell, they had given him one. And now, after this, and after this wonderful weekend, you will have a story too.
Give Sally another hand. Thank you. Thank you, Sally. I love that story. I think I heard it a long time ago, and it said, everybody does have a story. You don't have to have the fairies come visit you, and you have to find your own story. But besides the city of Denton, we have another sponsor, and it is called the Denton Benefit League. Yay! Oh, everybody clap for that. Benefit League. Now, I got to go and accept honor of going and hearing it. The Denton Benefit League recognizes at least 40-some nonprofits here in Denton and awards money to them. So we are very grateful to be a party of 40 different nonprofits. So we have to remember the Denton Benefit League. And we have to do it the same way we did the city of Denton. Are you ready? Denton Benefit League. Ready? Everybody, Denton Benefit League. Now I'm going to quit and hear you do it the third time all by yourselves, so let's hear it really loud. Denton Benefit League. Thank you all very much. Now we've got a little exercise. I didn't see too many hands, but that's okay. We'll go on. Our next teller is Nathan Holiner. I forgot to ask you how to say the name. Holiner, excuse me, thank you. I first met and heard Nathan 2 years ago at the Rising Star concert. He represented the Houston Guild, and he told an exciting, enthusiastic story, and I loved it. So I'm excited to introduce him today. And he, in his own words, says, I am a young adult with high-functioning autism from San Antonio. I attended my first storytelling meeting in 2010 as a listener 16 years ago, okay? I was hooked, but I would never have imagined that I'd be here today. And I want to learn, and I want to improve my storytelling, and what better place to do that than at a festival where there are so many storytellers surrounded by so many skilled ones. And he's here today to tell us his story, and he says his joy comes from making people smile. Will you welcome Nathan to the stage with a smile and a hand.
Wow! I just had the ride of my life! I just came in here on the Wabash Cannonball. And man, she was some train. Certainly no train I've ever been on before. What? What's that? You have not heard of the Wabash Cannonball? Well, let me tell you the story of the Wabash Cannonball. Well, you all know Paul Bunyan, the famous lumberjack who leveled a whole forest with one swing of his axe. Well, he had a little brother, and his brother's name was Cal. And Cal built the most wondrous railroad in the world. He called it the Ireland, Jerusalem, Australia, and Southern Michigan Line. Why, it took the largest steel mill in the country 2 years, working on a 36-hour day and a 9-day week just to build the first rail for cow. And each tie took a whole redwood tree. That train had 700 cars. It was so long that the conductor had to ride a twin-cylinder, super deluxe motorcycle to check the tickets. And when he checked the tickets, he took his .45 caliber automatic and he punched a hole in each one of them. That train was fast. Why, it was so fast that when it was at a dead stop, it was still going at 65 miles per hour. Well, after a couple of months of operating, they decided to speed up the schedule, and so the train arrived at its destination a whole hour before it left the starting point. One day, Cal was riding on the train with the engineer, and he said to the engineer, "Give her all everything she's got." And that was the end of the IJA and SM Railroad. Why, the train was traveling so fast that the friction melted all the rails and the ties all burned to ashes. And when it reached the top of the grade, it just took off like an airplane. And the engine took itself and all 700 cars so far out through the stratosphere that it's still traveling in outer space to this day. And you know what? At night, I know it's just jumping from star to star beyond Jupiter. Now that was years and years ago. But the old-time hobos, they had a name for that Flying Dutchman of a train, and they called her the Wabash Cannonball. And they say that there isn't a station in America that ain't heard her lonesome whistle. And that's the story.
I think that would be a great ride, don't you? Woohoo! Thank you, Nathan. Goodness sakes. Tonight, between, just a second, 4 and 5 is our Rising Star concert, and you can come and hear some other representatives from guilds around the state and let them come up on the stage, many of them for the first time here at the festival, many of them first time telling to an audience. So please be here to welcome them and applaud for them, because standing on the stage is a scary thing, telling your story the first time. So they need that support, and the audience gives it to them. After that, we'll be headed over, many of us going over across the street for dinner at Anderson's, and people are invited to come. There's also the chicken place, and there's also a Mexican restaurant up there, so there's lots of places to go eat, and you don't have to drive all the time. Anyway, that's my suggestion for your afternoon, evening. Our next teller is Sarah Evans. And Dr. Sarah Evans is a 4th-generation Seattleite, born into a blue-collar family of labor union members. These roots have kept her grounded as she found her way into librarianship and then into the not-so-hallowed halls of academia. Since moving to Texas in 2017, Sarah has learned to gallop on American quarter horse. I've never done that, Sarah. And discovered the joys of Whataburger. She loves stories in every form and seeks them in every city and country she's had a privilege to visit. I traveled with Sarah to the NSN conference way back there in Atlanta, Georgia this past summer, and she is fantastic. We had a great time. She's jumped into NSN. She's on the board for TSA. She is one fantastic woman. Would you all please welcome Dr. Sarah Evans to the stage and get ready for her story. Come on up, Sarah.
I call this story First Date Chaperone, and it's true. My mother was a warm-hearted woman, and she loved people. She was also an anxious woman. Now, she didn't want her anxiety to keep me from experiencing the world, so to keep her mind at ease, she developed a set of guidelines that I had to hear before I exited the house. Tell someone where you're going. If you move to a new location, call me. Don't go anywhere new with a stranger. And most importantly, if you are dropping someone off at their home, or if you're being dropped off, the driver must see the passenger enter their home, and then they must flick the porch light so that they know you are safe. I kind of wonder if she would have become agoraphobic if she hadn't met a good guy, my dad. He is the kind of person who holds open doors for people of all ages and any gender. He always checks on his neighbors to make sure that they're doing all right and see if there's anything he can do. And he cannot walk past a cat or dog without crouching down and giving them affection. I know that my mom was relieved when I met a good guy. My husband walks into a room full of people and manages to find the person who looks loneliest and start talking. If he comes to your house and there's something that needs repair, he's going to search for your tools and take care of that. And he's the first person I ever met who, when you go out to eat a meal, whether it's fast food or a steakhouse, he always makes sure to go and tell the kitchen staff, thank you. So, I never had a chance much growing up to travel. We were a middle-class family. I'd always wanted to test those guidelines in another country. Finally, in 2022, my employer asked me to be one of the representatives to go to an international conference. Location Dublin, Ireland. This is great, I think. My first European city. And Ireland is supposed to have friendly people. And they speak English of a sort. But I was still nervous, first time. Unfortunately, my more experienced colleague with traveling, Samantha, asks if we could share a room and we could even take the same flight. Perfect. Buddy system. Mother would approve. So, first day we land in Ireland, we go on a whirlwind of sightseeing. Great day. Day 2, we have separate committee meetings. And so, as we walk to the convention center, I say, okay, Sam, meet you back in the hotel go to dinner. Oh, I already have plans. I was hoping my buddy system would last more than one day. But it's a different story when I come back to the hotel after the meetings. Oh my God, you have to go to dinner with me? There were supposed to be 3, and now there's only 2, and it cannot be a date. After I get Sam to breathe a little bit, she explains that she was scheduled to have dinner with the editor-in-chief of a journal and a freelance editor who's a Dubliner. And now the editor-in-chief is sick. And Sean, the freelance editor, had been exchanging emails and he might have been flirting. But you have to understand, Samantha has had years of terrible experiences with men and she's kind of called off dating. She says, and I can't find him on Facebook or Instagram. Maybe he's hiding something. Well, Sam, he's a freelance editor, so for business purposes, he's probably on LinkedIn. Yes, you look. Is he cute? Staring at my computer. Well, I see a middle-aged man with dark hair, slightly receding, and nice eyes. Grabs my computer. Sam says, oh my God, he looks younger than me. Honey, I don't think that's a problem. She's a runner, very fit. Her hair has been kissed by the Texas sun with gold highlights. She has a beautiful tan. Well, anyway, she says, will you please come to dinner? Oh, sure. I'm hungry. So we meet at a prearranged location, which is a pub. It's spacious, has huge mirrors, nearly floor to ceiling windows, light green velvet booze, and it's full of polished brass. The minute Sean sees Sam, I know this is a date. But I really want to get dinner. And to be fair, Sean was warm and generous. So he greeted me just as much as he greeted Sam. All right, he says, I'll get the drinks. Guinness? Sam nods, but I say, well, I have to confess I don't actually drink alcohol, so if you could get me a soda or water. I'll find you something. So while I sip a not very tasty non-alcoholic beer, Sean asks me questions about my life, and he sincerely seems to want to hear the answers. Seems good. So we take off to the restaurant, cozy little basement restaurant that serves tapas, and we have a really good meal. They each drink glasses of red wine. I finally get my soda. And as things wrap up, I start to say, well, I should. And then I feel it. These fingers digging into my left knee. Well, I should go get fresh air and we can leave now. Sean says, great. I want to take you to one of my favorite pubs. Okay, I'll join you. And I see that he goes to the back and he says, thanks everyone, that was a great meal. Wow, that's like my husband. This might be a good guy. Off to the next pub. Looks like it's built for the dock workers of old. Light wood paneling and tables that are set up on wooden barrels. I order the drinks this time. Tell the bartender, 2 Guinness and something non-alcoholic. I'll find you something. Sean points out to me 2 tables. One has people seated with red and white clothing, and the other is green and gold. He explains that there had been a Gaelic football match, and they were fans of opposing counties. And he said, you can tell who won and who lost. I looked back and forth, and I really couldn't tell what outcome had happened, but they were all smiling and laughing and clinking drinks together. So Sean tells us all about life in Dublin. And then he says, oh, there's another pub I want to show you. I look at Sam, who does seem more relaxed now, but she's still pleading with her eyes. So we go on to another pub, and as we walk, I see a dog waiting patiently for its owner. And Sean crouches down, rubs the pup's ears, and says, good dog. Wow, that reminds me of my dad. We come to the next place that, to me, looks like the quintessential Irish pub. You go through a narrow walkway between a bar and these dark paneled booths, and it opens up into this lovely room with red tin tiles on the ceiling and pictures of hunting dogs and crossed shotguns that have rusted. I say, I really like this place, Sean. Really? He says, this is an old man pub. Well, I guess I like old men pub. Samantha goes to get the drinks. And I am sitting there trying to be polite. And Sean turns to me and says, why did you Americans elect Trump? I didn't personally elect him. Sean bursts out laughing, so I feel comfortable and safe. So I say, hey, I haven't seen any Irish folk bands. Like, there's this rumor in America that every pub has one. You want to go to Temple Bar. So we hit another pub. And this is the one that you've probably seen in ads for travel in Ireland. Lovely ivy coming down from the brickwork over the lacquer doors. And then you enter, and there's gorgeous tiles made from ceramic, and they have the Temple Bar emblazoned in them. There's even a bronze statue of James Joyce. And sure enough, the first thing I see is an Irish band complete with fiddle and flute. And the first thing I hear is Sweet Caroline. The whole audience, dun, dun, dun. I look at Sean, and his face is straight, but his eyes are laughing. Irish band, Irish people. But that's Neil Diamond they're singing. He's an American. Oh, we love him. Okay. We get another round of drinks, and at this point, I see that Sean is a little flushed, and Samantha is very flushed. They've got goofy smiles and stars in their eyes. And I hate to break up the party, but I really wanted Sam to be able to walk back to the hotel on her own 2 feet. So I say, well, we should get going. And as we go to leave, we turn right, and Sean comes with us. I say, oh, is your transit stop over there? And he says, no, I just want to make sure you two get back to the hotel safe. Oh, this reminds me of my mom. This is a good guy. We get into the hotel, say goodbye, and we don't even make it to the hotel room door before Samantha grabs my arm. Oh my God, he messaged me and he wants to see me again tomorrow. Do you think I should go? I squeeze her hand, remove it from clutching my arm. Samantha, I think we just met a really good guy, and you don't need me to be the chaperone for your second date. So, on my first trip to Europe, my friend found a boyfriend, and they're still together. And I gained an Irishman for a friend, and that still warms my heart. Thank you.
I'm not so quick on my feet. I should have been standing ready to come up here. Sorry about that. I have one more. We have many more, but I have one more sponsor that I want us to learn. This is the Texas Folklore Society. Now, I haven't, good job, let's all clap. Texas Folklore Society. Texas Folklore Society. Okay, ready? Texas Folklore Society. Okay, now you do it. You all are doing great. Thank you. I like to not just say these names, but you all need to know, because you may join us on the board. You may join us on planning festivals. You may take part, and you will come to appreciate all of these names that we have shouted out. Now, we are down to our last teller in our Welcome to the Festival concert, and you don't want to miss him. Sorry, y'all. We are going to welcome Decee Cornish up here to the stage. Now, Decee Cornish, because I asked everybody, why do they keep coming back to festivals? And he said that he likes to come to the festivals and see other tellers and he likes to hear stories, and he likes to tell stories. But what Decee really likes to do is go out and have adventures with his fellow storytellers after hours. Okay? Those are the fun times. Those are the get to know him times. Those are the fun times. And this is what is in his memory, because he's been coming from the early 90s, 1990s, I think. Yeah, I think he's been coming that long. Now, Decee is a longtime member of the Tejas Storytelling Association. He has been a featured teller here. He is and statewide, nationally. And he works in his community with these different groups. Stop the Violence Campaign, I Have a Dream Foundation, the Granberry Foundation that was recognized by the Presidential Commission of Arts and Humanities and earning the Coming Up Taller Award. He is a community activist, oral historian, educator, author, and he's a loyal member of the Tarrant Area Guild of Storytellers. Would you all please welcome Decee Cornish?
What's up? Y'all all right out there? Well, I want to say something. One of my mentors was a man named Doc Moore. And Doc Moore really knew how to welcome you. I'm going to welcome you in the tradition of Doc Moore, if that's all right. Howdy, y'all! Welcome to the Texas Storytelling Festival. Why, we've got storytellers that have climbed up the North Pole, slid down the South Pole. They've been the centerfold in Parade magazine. Welcome. Welcome. The story I'm going to share with you is one of the stories I told at the first Rising Star concert. And I'm going to share it with you. And it goes like this. It's an African folktale. And one of the things about the African American folktale is you get this wonderful mixture of animals. They remember the animals from Africa, but they also know the animals they see. And it begins like this. The most ferocious hunter in all the forest was Tiger. And when Tiger went hunting, it was terrible to see. But Tiger had a problem. Scavengers. I'm talking about scavengers like hyena, jackal, and the huge turkey buzzard. That's right. Anytime Tiger had something to eat, he would have to fight. Now, one hyena, no problem for Tiger. But hyena never came by himself. He always brought his brothers, sisters, and cousins. One jackal, no problem for Tiger. But he too would bring his brothers, sisters, and cousins. And turkey buzzard, when they came, their wings so many blocked out the light of the sun. Imagine that. Every time you go to eat, you have to fight. So Tiger figured out his problem. The animals that he was catching to eat was big uns. I'm talking about big uns like rhinoceros, hippopotamus, orangutan, the giraffe. So Tiger, next time he go hunting, he decided to find him something small to eat. He sees it. It's a squirrel. Man, that squirrel took off running. Boogity, boogity, boogity. You should have seen him. Man, tiger right behind him. Squirrel ran to the left. Tiger ran to the left. Squirrel ran to the right. Tiger ran to the right. Squirrel hopped over the log. Tiger went to hop over the log, and that's when he found out something. How clumsy he was. His foot hit that log. Boom, 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 boom. Over he goes. Dirt and leaves flying everywhere. Bang! He hit a tree. And that's when he heard somebody laughing.
You should have seen how you look. You're so stupid.
Nobody likes to be called stupid. Tiger looked to see who had called him stupid, and it was a cat. Tiger looked at that cat, and Bruh Cat took off running. Boogity, boogity, boogity. I mean, he was running, and Tiger was right behind him. And then Tiger yelled at the top of his voice, "Wait up!" The cat stopped running and said, "Wait up." He said, Yeah. You don't have to be afraid of me, cousin. The cat said, "Cousin?" He said, Yeah. A moment of your time, neighbor. The cat said, "Neighbor?" Yo, let me holler at you, homeboy. The cat said, "Homeboy?" But he done stopped running and let Tiger ease right up next to him. And Tiger kept right on talking. "Yeah, you don't have to be afraid of me, cousin. I mean, we're the same kind of people, neighbor. I got your back, homeboy." The cat said, "I don't know. Look out the paw." Cat held up his paw and said, "Meow. I got fur. You got fur." Cat said, "I don't know. A lot of folk got fur." "I got teeth. You got teeth." "I don't know. A lot of folk got teeth." You can trust me, cousin. Come on, neighbor. I got your back, homeboy. Well, the cat agreed, and they started walking the path together. And one day while they were walking the path, Tiger spoke what was truly in his heart and his head. "Bruh Cat." "Yeah? You remember that thing you did when we first met? Screamed out loud." "No, it was what you did after you screamed out loud." "Ran for my life." "Yeah. Hook me up." "Huh? Are you talking about my speed and my grace?" "Yeah. Teach your brother speed and grace." "I don't know," said the cat. "Oh, come on, cousin. You can trust me, neighbor. I got your back, homeboy." "I don't know," said the cat. But Tiger kept right on asking and begging, and Cat finally agreed. He became the tiger's teacher. And Tiger was an outstanding student. He learned his lesson so well until one night all the animals got together and they agreed that they should pack up and move, because if they stayed in the forest another minute, they would end up on Tiger's dinner table. So one night under a full moon, all the animals packed up and left. That morning when Tiger woke up, he went hunting. And when he came back, the only thing he brought back was a small mouse hanging out of the side of his mouth. Cat rolled over and looked at him and said, "Bruh, Tiger." Bruh, he looked at the cat and said, "This was all I could find." The cat looked up and said, "That poor thing? Mercy, brother, let it go." And the tiger spit the mouse out and he scampered away. The cat went and curled up under the tree. And Tiger, he went and curled up under the tree. Cat, he fell asleep. Tiger, not so lucky. Tiger lay down to sleep, and he heard, "Arr! Arr! What? Hungry? Me too. Arr! What? Hungry? I know. What? Hungry. Me too. Hungry. I know. Cat? Yes, I see him over there, laying there, sleeping. So calm. So peaceful. So juicy. You know what? I has bet he has taught me all I need to know. Everything. The tiger eased up on the sleeping cat. He stood over him. He pulled back his paw to strike. Cat woke up, rolled over, and looked right at him. "Bro, Tiger, what you doing?" Look at that bird in the tree. Isn't that a pretty bird?" The cat turned his head. Wow! Tiger struck. The cat took off running. Boogity, boogity, boogity. But the roles in reverse. Cat, he let himself get all out of shape, laying around eating 3 square meals a day. And he was like, "Ew, ew." And the tiger, he was a lean, mean hunting machine. And Tiger ran, and Tiger was running, and the cat was running, and then all of a sudden, Cat went straight up a tree. The tiger stopped, looked at the tree, and looked up at the cat and said, "What in the world did you just do?" And that's when the cat told him something I want you all to remember. You think I'm so stupid as to tell a stranger and show him everything I know? Because everybody smile in your face ain't necessarily your friend. And that's the truth today, like it was way back then.